A chance to share with you all about this grant. We're really excited to launch the Delaware Center for Musculoskeletal Research. And my job today is just sort of introduce this COBRE grant to you and sort of put it on your radar. Before I start, I want to second what the advice. Your biosketch, facilities, equipment, all those documents, do them way ahead of time. Do them now, and then you just have to update, because the worst thing is to be trying to do all that paperwork when you want to think about science and hit a deadline. So I really concur with that advice. It's really good advice. All right, so what is the Delaware Center for Musculoskeletal Research? So it just started in February. And our goal is to support basic and preclinical research on the central theme of musculoskeletal health at the scales from the body down to the molecule. And the niche that we're emphasizing is the mechanisms by which physical and biological cues influence tissue structure and function, and then dysfunction and therapies. So our aims are related to accelerating research, galvanizing capability, and amplifying impact of that research. I wanted to give a quick overview for those of you that may not know how all these different grants fit together. So being from Delaware, we're in an idea state, and what that means is there is congressional mandated funds to build research capacity in states that have low levels of NIH funding. And so we're very fortunate to have access to be very competitive for funding to build that research capacity. And one of the ways we do that is through a COBRE grant, which stands for Centers of Biomedical Research Excellence. And that's what this Delaware Center for Musculoskeletal Research is. It's a COBRE. The goal of a COBRE is to establish and develop biomedical research at idea states through awards that run for 3 5-year phases. And we're in phase 1, just getting started. The goal of a phase 1 is to establish the center under a thematic scientific area and galvanize and develop a critical mass of investigators. So a huge point of COBRE grants, especially in phase 1, is to build up the capacity and competitiveness of young investigators to then be competitive for peer-reviewed or external research funding like R01s. So just kind of showing you a little bit of where the COBREs fit in with all of the other grants that we have in the region or in Delaware plus. So the two biggies are the Delaware INBRE and the Delaware CTR. So the INBRE is Idea Networks of Biomedical Research Excellence, is what INBRE stands for, and that's infrastructure development to grow biomedical research capacity. And the Delaware CTR is for Center for Translational Research. So that's infrastructure to grow and develop clinical and translational research. So the missions are slightly different. They're sort of two ends of the spectrum. My COBRE is more like the INBRE because it's more basic, fundamental, preclinical, but my goal is that the COBRE, the Musculoskeletal Center COBRE, we start to move towards translational as they think about their work developing. So while it's fundamental with an eye on translation, would be the goal for anyone doing fundamental work. There's two other COBREs at UD. There's the COBRE for cardiovascular health. I believe they're just applied for phase 2. And the COBRE for discovery of chemical probes, which I believe they just got phase 3. So they're further along in the process. And after you go for 15 years, and I could be wrong about that, but once you go through 3 phases, then the funding ends and then there's a slot for another. You can only have 3 COBREs at one institution at a time. Other synergy in the region is, of course, Nemours, DuPont Hospital for Children. They're very collaborative in our COBRE, and Rob wrote a letter of support, and we want to work with Nemours as far as research cores and collaborations, and also the Penn Center for Musculoskeletal Research, which is in Philadelphia. They have a center that's a P30 funded, and so there's synergy between us, the folks at Delaware, or anyone who is doing research in musculoskeletal can have a affiliated membership in the Penn Center, and I would recommend that for those of you doing musculoskeletal research. There's really good opportunities for symposiums and even using cores there if needed. Okay, so that's sort of the big picture. What does our core do? Well, the first thing we want to do is develop new investigators. And so the mechanisms for doing that are projects, which are new investigator projects. We've got 2 of those. We can go up to 4. Those are $125K a year for 3 years of direct funds. And then there's pilot grants, which you don't necessarily have to be a new investigator for. Those are intended to let you either prepare to become a project lead and get the bigger one and move to R01s, or get pilot data to apply for extramural funding. So those are $80,000 a year for 1 year. We also bounced off the INBRI mechanism of core use funds, and so we will also offer $4,000 for 4 months to apply to using a core. So the bioimaging core is an example of one of the cores, or the MRI core, or others. Also, infrastructure resources for research. We're setting up a research core I'll talk about in a minute. Networking, like you guys, we want to plug into the Junior Investigator Network and other networks specific for musculoskeletal researchers, and also new faculty hiring. Faculty mentoring is important. So all of the project leads and pilot leads have both a scientific mentor and a translational or clinical mentor, which sort of tells you how we're trying to have people thinking about what is the impact of their work translationally in the future. We also focus on peer mentoring, including having science meetings amongst our crew every couple of months. We'll start a walk and talk where we just gather together, whoever's available at noon, and go for a walk and talk about science or mentoring or whatever folks want to talk about. And then proposal feedback meetings where people actively working on a proposal, you don't have to prepare or read ahead, you just show up with your aims page and we share them, you read them, and then we give each other feedback on them. So it's kind of reviewing 1 page at a time, and we'll do that every couple of weeks. This is really helpful to work in a small group and do that because it helps you get your writing progressing on a continual basis instead of waiting to the deadline. We also support grant writing training, so we'll send our investigators to either the workshops for grant writing or help support it through the UD grant writing training. Networking, we provide funds for you to travel as a seminar speaker to get yourself out there and interacting with other leaders in your area. And then we make sure that you're connected through the Advanced Institute and your own college and department mentoring. So mentoring is a really important part of our center as well. So the third big piece of this is a research core. So we are starting what we're calling a multi-scale assessments research core. And we will set up with state-of-the-art equipment to apply and assess physical cues and biological signals, as I mentioned at the very beginning. So we're setting this up as a gateway of an organizational framework of interlinked scientific leadership, technical expertise, user training, and partnerships with existing centers in the region. So we're not inventing the wheel, but we have co-directors of this core are Lee Yoon Wang and Millie Sullivan. So here's what we're thinking about this core. So you're the investigator, you come in, you'll meet with either the core directors or the lead scientists and get some scientific support related to study design and analysis and giving you some guidance of where various resources are. And then within our core, our first aim is mechanical loading and measurement. So this is where you might work with a biomechanical engineer to think about how do you apply physical forces to your question of interest. Or you might work with a veterinarian or a histology specialist within our core to think about preclinical models and histological assessments. You also might go outside the services that our core provides to work with collaborative centers, and particularly the third aim is multi-scale imaging equipment through the bioimaging scientists in our core and the bioimaging center in DBI. And we're also connecting with the vivarium, the biostatistics core as part of the CTR, nanofabrication labs and other centers on the Delaware campus or in the region where we can help connect a user to find what kind of research cores are available. So we think of this as a starting point for consultation and support. We have funds to enhance core access and usage. We want to help ensure your research reproducibility and rigor, and we want to form a connective and collaborative research community. So we're likely to be in 2 locations. We are definitely in one location, which is at the Life Science Building, which is also known as the CBBI, or the Center for Biomedical and Brain Imaging. So if you know the Delaware campus, on the main campus, the CBBI and the vivarium are a single building, the Life Science Building, and there's a connection between them, and we are on the 2nd floor of that connection. So you can go straight into in vivo imaging with MRI, or you can do imaging in our multi-assessment core, and you then connect straight to the vivarium for small animals. Currently in our assessments core, we have a confocal microscope. We've got cell culture capacities. We're going to get a bioprinter. We have an IVUS. We're getting a photoacoustic imaging. We have FACS, and we are developing histology capability. So the capability for histology, we're looking to actually locate that over at DBI at 15 Innovation Way. And that's currently where there's already histology capability for the College of Ag. And we're going to build adjacent to that to have capacity to do histology more widely on campus. And I'm not going to go through in detail of all the equipment and capability of the core, but we're really excited to work with you. So this is probably the most important slide. We've just started a website, and here's our website and why it's important. You can find out who's working, who the leadership is. We haven't built out the web yet because we're just getting started. But what we want you to do is go in and just put your name and email in so that you're on our email list. That way, when there are announcements about funding opportunities or just capabilities, we're starting to provide some of these resources that we are working towards developing. You'll get periodic emails from us. And I know you don't want to be on another listserv, but I think this would be a useful one for anyone who is in musculoskeletal research or thinks that they want to move into that with at the basic science discovery preclinical level. And that is and here is, so this is me. This is our executive committee or external advisory committee meeting. So Sue Giancola is working with us on evaluation, just like with the CTR. Valia Fowler, the chair of biology, is the co-director of the center, and Li Yun Wang and Millie Sullivan are the co-directors of the core, and these other folks are our advisory committee. And